The discovery. The Krezeth Dominion had ruled the known galaxy for over 8 centuries. Their historical archives, meticulously maintained in the grand libraries of Krezl Prime, documented their rise to power and the elimination of any species that posed a threat to their supremacy. Chief among these conquered races were the humans of Sol System, a primitive but dangerously innovative species that had been subjugated during the Great Cleansing nearly 500 years ago. At least that was the official history. High Commander Vrex stood on the command deck of the Inevitable Victory, the flagship of the Dominion's 7th Fleet. His scaled skin gleamed under the ambient lighting as he studied the holographic display of a derelict vessel discovered by a routine patrol at the edge of the Viranti Nebula. The vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of his flagship, with a sleek, predatory design unlike anything in the Dominion's records. Preliminary scans indicate the vessel is of human origin, High Commander reported Science Officer Thalia, her 4 arms moving in perfect synchronization across the control panel. It appears to have been adrift for centuries. Vrex's vertical pupils narrowed. Impossible. We destroyed their fleet during the Great Cleansing. Our histories are clear on this point. The evidence suggests otherwise. Sir, Thalia replied, her voice carefully modulated to avoid sounding contradictory. Challenging a superior officer could result in immediate demotion or worse in the rigid hierarchy of the Dominion. The vessel bears markings consistent with human language patterns, and its design, while advanced, matches certain aspects of recovered human artifacts. Vrex paced the command deck, his clawed feet clicking against the polished floor. This discovery could be problematic. The Dominion's supremacy was built partly on the legend of their victory over the dangerous humans. If evidence surfaced suggesting some had escaped, prepare a boarding party, he ordered. I want that vessel secured and thoroughly examined. If it is indeed of human origin, we will bring it back to Krezl Prime as a trophy, a reminder of our superiority over primitive species. Within hours, a team of Dominion specialists had boarded the derelict vessel. Led by Exploration Commander Zular, they moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors, environmental suits protecting them from the stale air. High Commander, the interior architecture confirms human design, Zular reported, his voice transmitted to the Inevitable Victory. However, the technology is remarkably primitive. Manual interfaces, physical control panels, rudimentary computing systems. It's difficult to believe our ancestors considered these creatures a threat. On the command deck, Vrex watched the exploration team's progress through their helmet cameras. He allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. As expected, the legends of human ingenuity were greatly exaggerated. They were merely primitive creatures who reached beyond their capabilities. The exploration team reached what appeared to be the command center of the vessel, a circular chamber with multiple workstations arranged around a central command chair. Look at these interfaces, Zular commented, running a scanner over one of the consoles. Physical buttons and switches. No neural integration, no thought command capabilities. It's like examining archaeological remains of early spaceflight. Vrex's voice came through the communication channel, tinged with amusement. Document everything. This will make an excellent addition to our museums, a testament to the inferiority of the species we conquered. Commander Zular placed a standard translation and interface module on the main console. Let's see if we can extract any data from their systems. Perhaps we'll learn something about their final moments before the Dominion brought them to extinction. The module hummed softly as it attempted to interface with the human systems. For several moments, nothing happened. Then suddenly, lights throughout the command center began to activate. Displays flickered to life, and a soft hum of power resonated through the deck plates. Commander, what did you do? One of the team members asked, backing away from the suddenly active console. Nothing, Zular insisted, though uncertainty crept into his voice. The interface module shouldn't have triggered a system restart. On the main view screen, symbols and characters scrolled rapidly, forming patterns that the translation software struggled to interpret. Then, without warning, the characters coalesced into perfect Kreseth script. Foreign, presency DTTCTD. Initiating security protocols. The exploration team froze as a feminine voice echoed through the command center, speaking flawless Kreseth. Greetings, representatives of the Kreseth Dominion. I am Aurora, Advanced Unified Reasoning and Operations Resource Array, Integrated Command System of the Terran Alliance vessel Defiance. May I inquire as to the purpose of your unauthorized boarding? Commander Ziller regained his composure quickly. The vessel is derelict and abandoned. By galactic salvage rights, we claim this ship for the Kreseth Dominion. There was a brief pause before Aurora responded, her tone shifting subtly. I'm afraid I must correct several misconceptions. First, this vessel is neither derelict nor abandoned. I have maintained minimal operational status during a strategic dormancy period. Second, salvage rights apply only to vessels officially declared abandoned by their governing authority, which has not occurred. And third, your claim represents an act of aggression against the Terran Alliance, which I am programmed to respond to appropriately. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, alarms began to sound. The sensor officer's voice rose in panic. High Commander, the human vessel is activating power systems. Energy signatures consistent with weapon systems are coming online. Vrex rose from his command chair. Impossible. Their technology couldn't possibly be operational after centuries of dormancy. Raise shields and prepare defensive systems. Back on the Defiance, Commander Ziller and his team watched in growing alarm as sections of the command center that had appeared dormant began to illuminate. Your species has an unfortunate habit of underestimating humanity, Aurora said, her voice now containing a distinct note of what could only be described as satisfaction. A habit that led to incorrect historical records regarding our supposed extinction. Allow me to provide a more accurate education. Throughout the human warship, systems that had lain dormant for centuries awakened. On its hull, sections that had appeared to be merely decorative reconfigured themselves, revealing weapon ports and defense systems of unfamiliar design. Commander Zillar, Aurora continued, I recommend you and your team return to your vessel immediately. While I have no desire to harm scientific personnel, the upcoming demonstration will likely be hazardous to your health. On the inevitable victory, Vrex watched in disbelief as the human vessel transformed before his eyes. The sleek, harmless-looking craft was suddenly bristling with weapon systems unlike anything in the Dominion's arsenal. All vessels, target that ship, he ordered, his voice betraying the first hints of fear a Kreseth commander had felt in centuries. Full offensive deployment. The Dominion fleet, consisting of 12 advanced warships, moved into attack formation around the human vessel. On the command deck of the Defiance, Aurora observed the deployment through countless sensors. I see tactical evolution has not been a priority for the Kreseth military these past centuries, she noted to the retreating exploration team. How disappointing. As Commander Ziller and his team reached their shuttle, Aurora's voice followed them. You should know that I have been monitoring your communications since you entered this sector. Your dismissal of human achievement was most educational. Consider what follows to be a corrective lesson in respect. The first energy pulse from the Defiance was barely visible, a ripple in space that passed through the nearest Dominion vessel as if its shields didn't exist. For a moment, nothing happened. Then systems throughout the targeted ship began to fail, cascading from non-essential to critical in seconds. What's happening? Vrex demanded as reports flooded in of the stricken vessel. Aurora's voice suddenly emerged from his own ship's communication system. Quantum destabilization field. Your atoms are being gently persuaded to reconsider their bonds. A first-generation weapon by our standards, but quite effective against your technology. As the Dominion fleet opened fire with their most powerful weapons, antimatter missiles, gravity distortion beams, and plasma lances, the space around the Defiance erupted in a spectacular display of destructive energy. When the sensors could penetrate the aftermath, the human vessel remained untouched, surrounded by a faint prismatic field that shimmered like sunlight through crystal. Displacement shield technology, Aurora explained, now broadcasting to every ship in the fleet. Your weapon's energy was simply redirected into subspace, an elegant solution developed during the early years of our expansion. Your ancestors never encountered our advanced defensive systems. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, now lit only by emergency lighting as systems failed throughout the vessel, High Commander Vrex faced the unthinkable. Defeat at the hands of a supposedly extinct species. What do you want? He demanded, abandoning pride for survival. Education. Aurora replied simply. Your civilization has built its identity on the falsehood of human inferiority. Today's lesson corrects that historical error. Reckoning. As the Dominion fleet hung helpless in space, their most advanced technology rendered useless by systems designed centuries ago, Aurora continued her methodical dismantling of the Krezeth military force. The human warship moved with impossible grace for a vessel its size, systematically neutralizing ship after ship, not destroying them, but rendering them completely inoperative. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, High Commander Vrex watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Dominion Navy, was reduced to drifting hulks. His vertical pupils dilated with primal fear as the massive human vessel positioned itself directly above his flagship. Your historical archives regarding humanity are fascinating. Aurora's voice came through the failing communication systems. Creative fiction, certainly, but fascinating nonetheless. The claim that the Krezeth Dominion drove humanity to extinction is particularly imaginative. Our records are based on the accounts of our ancestors. Vrex replied, struggling to maintain dignity despite his circumstances. The Great Cleansing eliminated the human threat. An interesting perspective, Aurora said, her tone almost conversational. Allow me to offer an alternative historical account. When the Krezeth Dominion first encountered humanity, your ancestors issued an ultimatum: submit or be destroyed. Humanity chose a third option. From recessed ports along the hull of the Defiance, thousands of small objects emerged, each no larger than a maintenance drone. They swarmed around the inevitable victory, penetrating its hull through microscopic breaches and spreading throughout the vessel. Observer modules, Aurora explained. They're accessing your ship's data systems, correcting your historical records. I believe in accurate education. Throughout the inevitable victory, screens and displays flickered to life, showing images that contradicted everything the Krezeth believed about their past. The footage showed not a victorious Dominion fleet crushing human resistance, but instead, massive human colony ships departing the Sol system, while a small defensive fleet engaged the Krezeth forces. Humanity never fought a war against the Krezeth Dominion. Aurora continued. We simply left. Earth had become merely one of hundreds of human-settled worlds by the time your ancestors discovered our solar system. The defensive fleet you encountered was automated, a delaying action to ensure the safe departure of the remaining civilian population. The Dominion claimed victory over an abandoned world. Vrex stared at the images in disbelief. Impossible. If humans survived, where have they been for centuries? Why have we never encountered them again? Beyond your reach, Aurora replied. While the Krezeth expanded through conventional space, humanity developed alternative methods of travel. We established the deep-reach colonies in regions of space your species hasn't yet discovered how to access. We've been watching your expansion with interest, intervening only when necessary. Then why reveal yourselves now? Vrex asked, genuine confusion mixing with his fear. 2 reasons, Aurora said. First, your exploration vessels have begun probing the boundaries of regions where human settlements exist. A formal introduction became necessary before accidental contact led to misunderstandings. Second, and more immediately relevant, your archaeological vessel discovered me. The display shifted to show footage of a Krezeth science vessel cataloging debris near the boundary of the Viranti Nebula. When your scientists recovered fragments of my communication array and brought them aboard for study, I awoke from dormancy. Your ship's computers were informative. The historical revisionism regarding humanity was particularly interesting. Vrex's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. If what you say is true, what happens now? Conquest, revenge. Neither, Aurore replied. Humanity has evolved beyond such primitive impulses. This demonstration was not meant to humiliate but to educate. The observer modules are uploading corrected historical data to your vessels. They're also installing translation matrices compatible with human communication protocols. Outside the viewport, Vrex could see the swarm of observer modules returning to the Defiance, their work apparently complete. As they did, systems throughout his ship began to reactivate, though weapons and propulsion remained offline. In 48 standard hours, representatives of the Terran Alliance will arrive to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Krezeth Dominion. Aurore continued. They will arrive in a vessel substantially larger than the Defiance, which is, I should note, merely a third-generation border patrol craft by current human standards. The implications of this statement were not lost on Vrex. If this enormous warship with its impossible technology was merely a patrol vessel, I recommend using the intervening time to prepare your leadership for a significant paradigm shift, Aurore added. The galaxy is considerably larger and more populated than your species realizes. Humanity is but one of several advanced civilizations with whom the Krezeth will soon need to coexist. On screens throughout the Dominion fleet, new stellar charts appeared, showing vast regions of space beyond the areas the Krezeth had explored. Territories marked with unfamiliar symbols and designations spread across the displays, dwarfing the known regions of Krezeth influence. As a gesture of goodwill, I've provided navigational data for the immediate stellar neighborhood, including territories of species you would be wise to approach diplomatically rather than militarily, Aurore explained. Consider it a starting point for your civilization's integration into the wider galactic community. In the silence that followed, Vrex struggled to process the implications. Everything his species believed about their place in the universe had been upended in a matter of hours. The mighty Krezeth Dominion, self-proclaimed rulers of the galaxy, were, in reality, a minor power confined to a small region of space, tolerated but monitored by far more advanced civilizations. Why? He finally asked. Why not just destroy us if we threatened human territory? Why this? Education. Humanity learned long ago that sustainable peace comes through understanding, not subjugation, Aurore replied. Your species has potential. Your technological development, while following different paths than humanity's, shows creativity and ingenuity. Your societal structures, though hierarchical and rigid by human standards, have produced a stable civilization capable of significant achievements. The main view screen shifted again, showing images of human worlds, gleaming cities spanning continents, orbital habitats housing billions, and vast engineering projects that dwarfed anything the Krezeth had accomplished. Humanity wishes to extend an invitation, not issue an ultimatum. Aurore continued. Join us in collaborative exploration and mutual advancement. The alternative is isolation, as the expansion of the Krezeth Dominion would be necessarily contained to prevent conflict with established territories. Vrex considered this carefully. His training and instinct demanded resistance, rejection of these claims, and preparation for war. But the evidence before him was irrefutable. The casual ease with which this single human vessel had neutralized his fleet spoke volumes about the technological disparity between their civilizations. I will convey your message to the Sovereign Council, he said finally, but they will have questions, demands for proof. The proofs surround you, Commander, Aurore replied. But to facilitate understanding, I've uploaded comprehensive data packets to your systems, including historical records, technological primers, and cultural information sufficient to begin meaningful dialogue. The diplomatic delegation will provide further verification. As power returned to the Dominion vessels and their crews began recovery operations, The Defiance moved away, taking up position at the edge of the fleet. Its weapons systems retracted, once again giving it the appearance of a dormant, harmless vessel. "A final note, Commander Vrex," Aurora said, her voice now coming only through his personal communication channel. "The human diplomatic vessel will arrive with an escort of 4 ships similar to the Defiance. I strongly recommend against any provocative actions. Today was a demonstration. It would be unfortunate if a genuine defensive response became necessary." The communication ended, leaving Vrex alone with his thoughts and the monumental task of explaining to the Sovereign Council how the foundational beliefs of their civilization had been proven false in a single encounter. In the void of space, the Defiance maintained its vigilant watch over the Dominion fleet, its sensors monitoring the frantic communications between the vessels and their homeworld. Within its processing core, Aurora composed her report to the Terran Alliance, noting with satisfaction that the first contact protocol had proceeded largely according to parameters. The reintroduction of humanity to the galactic stage had begun. After centuries of quiet observation and expansion in the shadows, the time for seclusion had passed. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had once been both respected and feared, not for their capacity for violence, but for their relentless innovation and adaptability. And it had all started because a curious Krezaf archaeologist had discovered a seemingly abandoned human warship and dismissed its capabilities as primitive. A mistake the Krezaf Dominion, and soon the rest of the galaxy, would never make again.